friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tammy Ernest, and if you're new here, I'm a long arm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own projects. So today I have a quick update on my Scrappy Spools quilt along, and then I'm going to share some customer quilts. So let's get right into it. So the Scrappy Spools quilt along, I've been talking about this every month. I'm going to show you my July blocks for today, and this is a pattern that you can get off of the Fat Quarter Shop. It was written by Lori Holt, and this is a quilt along that they are doing for the entire year for 2023. So each month we do usually one set of blocks, and that's the way it's been for the last couple months. We'll do 2 sets of blocks, but the sets are usually 4 a piece. And so this month we are doing pinwheel blocks. Before I get to that, let me show you what I chose. The colorway I've chosen, I pulled one of my Scrappy bins out at the first of the year and decided there was a good array of fabrics in here, and so this is what I'm using for the entire quilt along. I just pull scraps from here. Even the brown spools are coming from the browns that are in this tub right here, and so that is what I'm pulling from for that. Here are the blocks that I have done so far. I have a huge stack of them. We are knocking them out every month. So, and again, you can see some of those scrappy fabrics from there. So, like I said, this month is, what do they call the sew pinwheel blocks. Each block is called something, sew something. So this month is the sew pinwheel block, and I keep my pattern in this nice little binder just to keep it all nice and straight. And so here are my pinwheel blocks. I did 4 different colorways, so this is my red one. You'll recognize the brown print. I have used this as the tops and bottoms of my other spools, and I think this is the last time I'm going to be able to use it because I am out. I don't have enough length. I have some more width-wise, but the length of these I don't have. So there is my red one. And a blue. This has got mostly blue. You can see that green print has blue in it as well. That's why I put those 2 together. And then I have an orange one. It's a little darker of an orange. It's got a print to it, if you can see that. I like this print. I've had that for quite a while. And then a black and gray one. So those are my 4 pinwheel blocks. And add those to my stack here. And very simple to do. I am using the same white print for each one. I do have a whole bolt of this, and I've talked about this probably each time that I show it to you. I do have a whole bolt. You can see it's got the tiny little dots. This is called Blossom, and this is a Christopher Thompson print, and I really like this one. I like to keep a couple neutrals like this on hand, a couple bolts of stuff, just so that when I start a new project, I already have that background fabrics that you need so often for quilts. So I'm coming right along. In August, let me see. In August, we have 2 types of blocks. We have a plus block and a stamps block, and so that will be next month. But the 4 blocks I did today took me an hour and a half or something like that. It doesn't take a real long time, and because you're only doing them once a month, it's a very easy sew along. So you could get caught up on this. If this is something you want to join now, you absolutely could get caught up on it there in just a short amount of time, even just a couple hours a week, and you would be caught up to us in you know, less than 2 months. So you might want to join in with that one. Again, by Lori Holt, a really cute pattern. So let me move on to customer quilts. So the first client quilt I have is Joyce's, and I'll let you look at some pictures here. So I believe from what Joyce said that this is one of the 3-yard quilts. I will confirm that with her and put that in the description down below if it is, so you can see her quilt. This is really cute. If you could tell by the larger pictures how the blocks look like they are inset, and can you see how that's constructed? Are you able to do that? Take apart a quilt pattern and see how it's constructed. So when you're looking at it, it looks like we have, you know, these boxes, and then we have the squares inside. But you can see how the box around this fussy cut square here is by, I have there's a 3-strip here, 3-strip here, 3-strip here, and when you turn them in those, orient them in those ways, then it appears that the block above it is inset, and it appears that this one has a block around it, or, you know, a square around it, but it's all created with the way you lay out your fabrics. So a really cute pattern. And I took the inspiration for the pantograph from the fabrics. So you see the fabrics right there. We have these nice pretty mums right there. Is that a mum? I'm not, I don't know my flowers really well, but I'm thinking that is. Anyway, or a peony. It almost looks like, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know my flowers. Anyway, I took my inspiration for my pantograph from the design of this fabric because I have this pantograph called Mums, and it has a very, let me show you the back because I think you can see it on the back a little better. This pantograph is called Mums, and so it starts in the middle, and you're doing the you know, the flower petals all the way around until you get this large one, and then it moves on to the next one, and it's called Mums. And I thought this looked really cute with the front, because the front has just blocks of those flowers, and then I've got lots of other stripes and you know, the square designs in here. I thought the mum flower really looked good. Now if this entire quilt was made with fabric like this, that flower one might have been too much, but with this one, because we've got a lot of even you know, what appear to be solid fabrics, they're not solids, they've got a little bit of modeling to them, a little bit of print to them, but from a distance they appear to be solids, and so it fills in a lot of those with the texture. And I showed you the back. I like this print, this fabric on the back. And then I've gone ahead and done the binding for Joyce as well. And that matches this, this fabric that's in the quilt top. The binding does. So really nice. I think this is for a wedding gift from what she said. So again, a nice quick quilt pattern that you can do, and makes a nice gift for a new bride and groom, and something they can sit over the couch, and a nice personal gift. That's really nice. All right, let's move on to Judy's quilt. It'll be the pink one right here. Judy's quilt is all flannels, all these pink pretty flannels, and so soft and so cute. And you can tell we've got pinwheels going on. I've got a pinwheel theme today. So these are much larger than the ones that I showed earlier for my So Scrappy spools, but there you can see the block. And pinwheels you just make with half square triangles. So let me pull out one of my blocks from earlier. And if you've not made pinwheels before, they're super simple, all right? So they are just half square triangles. So if you can just see that part of the block right there, and then we've got 4 of them, and just by turning the block each time, it creates that pinwheel effect. So to make a pinwheel, what you're doing is cutting your square. You're cutting two colors, the exact same size. So those were one size. These look like they are probably a good 5 or 6 inch squares. So I would cut 5-inch square out of this one, a 5-inch square out of this one. I would layer the two on top of each other, right sides together. And then if you can imagine, you can draw this diagonal line if you want to. I don't. I have some guides on my sewing machine, the bed of it, so I can just run them along those guides. But what you want to do is this diagonal line down the middle of them, you want to sew a 1/4 inch on either side before cutting it apart. This way you're not cutting on the bias. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You're not sewing on the bias, and your fabrics have much less chance of stretching. When you're sewing on a triangle bias shape, it has a good chance of stretching there, and which can always be trimmed up. It's not a make or break kind of thing. You can always trim up your blocks, but just an easier way to do this is to layer your two squares, sew down a 1/4 inch on either side of that diagonal line. Then you cut those two blocks apart, you press those open, and now you have two half square triangle blocks. So this one was made with 2 pieces of orange. So I have, this one was a pair and this one was a pair on 1 square. All right, so I'm only using, for this block, I'm only cutting 2 orange squares and 2 dark orange squares, laying those on top of each other, sewing down either side of the diagonal, pressing those open, and that gives me 4 blocks that I then rotate to make that pinwheel shape. So you notice in this one, all 4 are put together, all right? In this one, what Judy has done is we're making these pinwheel blocks with the same pink background, if you want to call that background. It's just one print of the half square triangle is always the same print, and then the other one is not. And then, but we're not using them in the same block. We're moving them all around the quilt to create these nice pinwheels, all of different designs. So you can see the pinwheel block here, that one, and then you can see it down here. Now, because we're putting it right next to each other, you know, sometimes it looks a little different. You start seeing different designs. You know, I can see almost like a house block or something right there. And that's just the different colors playing different directions, which is kind of interesting because then, you know, you've got interest to your quilt. It's just a different way of doing it. So then you're joining those larger half square triangles together to get the pinwheels. So a great Scrappy project, whatever size squares you have, as long as your squares are the same size, you just stack them on top of each other and right sides together and sew on either side of the diagonal. So you can do it with 5-inch squares, you can do it with 3-inch squares, you can do it with 2-inch squares, whatever your scrap pile is. And then this could even be a leader and ender project that we talked about last week. You can just have those squares sitting next to each other. I would, in order to get the pinwheel effect, you do need to have a lighter and a darker. So either have some already matched up sitting next to your machine, or do it the way Judy did and you have a colored one with the same, you know, you have a different fabric here, but this one is always the same in each one. And you can have a stack of those next to you. You want that contrast between the two fabrics in order to get the nice pinwheel. But a great Scrappy project. Then Judy has added a couple borders on there, and I like the way she's done this. This is a different, you know, an interest. We don't have to do our borders the same every time. Add some interest to your quilts, try something new. Here she's done a light pink on the inner, a blue, a skinnier blue one, and then a different pink on the outer one, and she's added those to the 2 sides of the quilt. Then measuring across, then she added one straight across the top and the bottom. Nice effect. A little quicker, and I mean, doesn't have to be quicker, but it just a different way to do borders, and it adds some interest to your quilt and lets you do something a little different. Here is her backing fabric. This one ties all of those flower prints together on the back, and this also is flannel, really soft. All right, let's talk about pantograph. So for this one, this one felt very girly to me. And so I use the pantograph, I'll make sure I get the name right, and I believe this is Ginger Snap. Look through my things here. This is Ginger Snap. I can't find my paperwork. All right, if I'm wrong, I'll put it in the description. but I believe this is Ginger Snap. Okay, so this one we've used recently here. This one's so cute. And I think the last time we used it was on one of those table toppers from last week. Am I thinking right? And it added a different feel to those, a very summery feel. This one, I just think it looks very girly. Just the swirls and the circles, concentric circles here, kind of, and then out to the swirls, and just added some playfulness and some girliness. Just feel like it's, she's just spinning around. That's the way I see it anyway. I don't know. But a really cute one. I did use a pink thread on this one as well. Could have used a cream color, but with a quilt this pink, I just decided let's just go ahead and do a pink. Now, we've also talked about how I always use the same color in the bobbin thread, and this is one time where I did not. With flannel, it's a little thicker. I have a little more leeway in my tension, and flannel soaks up that thread just a tad bit more. So I actually, because I do not have a pink pre-wound bobbin, and it does take a little bit of time to wind your own bobbins, which I certainly have done, but with this one, you weren't going to be able to tell whether it was pink or cream on the back. So I actually just used my cream color pre-wound bobbins, and saved some time that way, so I didn't have to wind any pink bobbins, and you can't tell. No pin pricks because it's so busy. You can't tell if there was any, and the cream color and the pink threads were very similar in tone, so it's not going to pop through. It's so different than doing a blue on the back and a white on the top, that I wouldn't do that, because you are going to see that. But with this one, the tones are so similar, you're not going to see those pin pricks, and with as busy as the back is and the front, you're not going to tell that I used two different color threads. So that is Judy's quilt. All right, so next I have two Quilts of Valor. There's two stacked up down there at the bottom, or hanging there at the bottom. So I'll pull the first one down while you look at some pictures. So our guild does participate in the Quilts of Valor program. We have a chairman, a chairperson who is over that committee in our guild, and she takes care of coordinating that whole event, and we create and collect Quilts of Valor quilts all year long, and then she takes them to our regional hub person that is in charge of that. So far this year, I don't know. I can't remember what we said. I know last year we donated, I want to say 18 or 20 some quilts to Quilts of Valor, and I think we're on the pace to outdo that this year as well. So it's a big guild group effort. Some people will do the piecing, some people are donating fabrics. The chairperson that's over this, she makes sure that you have all the backing that you need and the batting is supplied, and so I like to do my part in doing the long arm quilting for these. And so this year they have been working on these blocks. The ones that are piecing blocks have been working on these neat star blocks. And again, this is a very simple block to do. It just takes some planning. So you can see that this is just a red square. This is a blue square. This one is a half square triangle, just like we were just talking about with the pinwheels. But when you're only making two of them, and then it creates that diagonal line behind the star. This one right here is a red one with easy corner triangles on these two sides, and then you have your white square in the middle. And then they have oriented it in the quilt so all of the reds are in the same, in the bottom right hand corner, or depending on, they're in the same place in every block, so that we have this stripes effect that occur. So that is really, really nice. Then these are all solids. Well, the blue is a little bit of a print, but the reds are solids. This tan color is a solid. The whites are actually a combination of a couple different white prints in there. Then you can see the border. They've oriented this border. It's a really cute, I want to say cute. I mean, it's just a really patriotic and neat border there. So they've oriented it so that it's this way all throughout the quilt. So what I mean by that is it's this way. If you turn the quilt this way, you're still seeing it upright. If you go all the way to the bottom, it's still upright on that side. So it doesn't matter which end is up. It's all going to look the same. And then they have even mitered the corners. Look at that. What handiwork that takes. So mitered corners here, and they've matched up the stripes here. And then this is a second border on the outside. I believe it's a second one. Let me see. That may be one whole print. It is. I was thinking it was two. But this, the whole thing from here to here is one large strip. And then they've mitered the corners to get those to match. And that is, I would say, an advanced skill if you're a new quilter. Not something you want to try right at first. It does take a little practice, but they've done a very nice job. I don't know who put this one together. Someone in the guild, but they did a really nice job. The backing fabric is this majestic eagle print with the red and blue stars. Just so handsome. Really, really nice. Then, the pantograph. This was a new pantograph to me, and if you received my weekly newsletter, I gave a hint to this pantograph last week in my newsletter saying I'd be using it on a couple of Quilts of Valor quilts this week. And this one is called Stars and Bars, and I really like this. I'll put a link to it down below. Let me hold this up so you can see it without it all being wrinkled. I really like this. There, can you see that? So you got the back and forth bars, as they're called, with the stars in different spots. I really like this one. I think it adds a lot to the quilt. It just gives it that, I want to say, just a Quilt of Valor. It just matches. It's not, it's just stoic and strong, I guess is what I want to say. That's the kind of picture I get. I really like it. I think it complemented this one really well. I did use a darker cream. It's almost a tannish color so that it matches with that tan right there. And it's just a tad bit lighter than the tan. I really like it. Stars and Bars. And like I said, first time I've used that one, but I really, really liked it. And then I have one more Quilt of Valor. It's down at the bottom. I will pull this one out and while you look at some pictures. Isn't this one handsome too? So this is an example of what to do with a panel and then adding more borders around it and giving it a lot of detail. This one again is very just majestic in my opinion. So you have the eagle panel in the middle. Then around the outside, and let me look at this real close, these are borders that were added right here. I wasn't sure at first whether they were part of the panel or not, but I can tell by feeling it that those are pieced. So we have this skinny blue, then the skinny flag, and then the skinny blue one. And what I want to show you is the next border. Now, I did not realize today when I was hanging up quilts that I had this half square triangle theme going, but that's exactly what these blocks are again. So you can see all the different examples of half square triangles from the pinwheels to the ones that I showed you on that one, how you can create that diagonal effect with the stars. And then here's another way of doing it and another way to lay them out. So let me find a block. This one is right here. And these are pretty large. So that's the width of it, and the height of it is right here. And so this one, again, a half square triangle, we have two of them, okay? We have the white one with the red, again, the red with the white, but what we have done when we've joined them then is put the two reds together, and then you get that stripe effect. Pretty interesting. So then we go down a little bit farther, and the next one we have two half square triangle blocks. We join the whites together with the red block above it, and again, it creates that, that stripe effect. And then even in the corner, notice how we turn the corner here. So the stripes, and then we're orienting it that way so that the stripes go across. So we keep that same diagonal all the way across the quilt. Really nice, really nice. I love this flag print here. So all those patriotic prints that you have, these are ways to use them. Use them as the border. Use them in these half square triangles. So you see we have this skinny border at the top, or on the inside. And if you see this, so there's a blue one, the flag one, and a blue one. Then this part, the words right here, are part of the panel, and then they've just added the skinny blue border across the top so that we have the same width. Do you see that? The same border width all the way around that panel. And then on the outside, so you have that striped border, and then we've gone the same prints, but just a little wider. So this blue's a little wider than it was on the inside, the flag one's a little wider, and then the outside blue one's just a tad bit wider than that. Great way to use a panel and add all that interest to it. Panels don't have to be boring. We can play it up with the rest of the fabric and the piecing. So the back is just a blue back. Then the pantograph I chose for this one, I think you can see it best on the back. So let me hold this up for you. This is called Star Spangled Banner. This is actually a free pattern, a free digital pantograph, and I will link that down below. Move to the side, see if you can see it any better. My shadows just are not real great today. It's been overcast and it's kind of gloomy today, but the sun's starting to peek out, so let's see if we can get this. If you can see, there we go. So you can see the stars and then the big swags in there too. There is some overlapping on this one. Well, what I mean by, I want to say stitching over. So in the same pass as you're going along the quilt, it does come back and stitch over other parts that it's already done, at least in the same row, not row to row, but you're stitching over some parts that were done previously in that row. So this is where you just got to make sure you do not bump your bars on your long arm as it's going, because it will, if it's doing one of those, it'll give you a wiggle instead of right there. Right over the top of the other stitches. So you can see the stars, a couple different sizes there, and then the big swags. Did this rather large. I didn't want to make it too small with the panel on the front. I just didn't want to take away from the eagle on the front, so I did make this rather large. I did use a gray thread on this. Gray usually blends in really well with a blue background, and I toyed with using a cream color because we did have so many of the whites on the front, but in the end I just decided that the gray to me was a little more again, I keep using that word stoic. It was just a little more majestic and powerful and strong, and that's kind of the feel that I wanted for this quilt, where a cream color to me gives off the feel, not always, but in this one it kind of gave me more of a feel of softness, and I didn't want that feel with this quilt. I wanted boldness, and so I decided to use a gray thread. So even on the white, okay, you can see the gray. The panel itself is a tan color, so the gray does blend in a little bit more than on the white. But I just felt gray was a better fit for this quilt, even with the lighter colors. Then you can see on the eagle, the gray kind of on the eagle kind of blends in with some of the coloring of the eagle's wings and feathers and things. I think the gray was a good choice. And it's a lighter gray, it's not a dark gray by any means. But I think that was a good choice, even on the light prints. So Star Spangled Banner is that pantograph, and like I said, that is a free one, so I will link that down below so that you can get a hold of that one if you'd like. So here I'll show the back again. And the Quilts of Valor program, if you're unfamiliar with that, I will link their website down below. This is where the purpose is to provide a quilt in honor of every veteran. And so they make presentations, they give certificates, they put labels on the quilts so that those quilts, when they're given to the veterans, it's done in a presentation. And very special, a way to honor those who are serving our country and allowing us the freedoms that we have. We even have stories when the chairperson from our guild was meeting with the regional director to bring all these quilts to her. They were meeting in a restaurant, and when they were at the restaurant, an older gentleman came in and was wearing his service cap there. And I don't remember which branch of service it was, but it was obvious that he was a veteran. And so right there, they decided to go out and grab one of the Quilts of Valor quilts that they have, that they were exchanging, and bring it in and present it to this man right there in the restaurant. How special is that? So if you know a veteran and would like to nominate them, I'll put the link down in the description so that you know how to get that whole process started. If you're a quilter and want to donate, you don't have to be a part of a guild to do this. There's information on the website about how you can be in on the program as well. And if you'd like to be a volunteer, I know they have volunteer positions as well. So just a great organization, and one that we wholeheartedly want to support, and thank those veterans who have done so much for us here in America. So that is all I have for you today. I hope you're having a wonderful summer and staying busy and enjoying your season. And I hope you're making lots of time to quilt. And if you have a quilt that needs to be finished, I hope you'll get a hold of me, because every quilt is worth finishing. So we'll see you here next week.